Good, it is on live. Wow, look how grainy that video is. That's really grainy. I definitely need to learn how to create more videos and I get to the point. So I'm exhausted, but part of it's my fault. It's my fault because I spend about 5 hours a day on YouTube listening to videos and trying to find news about Biden and trying to find what the Department of Labor and OSHA says about forced vaccines for any company that has over 100 employees, or what is it, 80 million employees altogether, or 80,000? I think it's 80,000 employees altogether, but 100 employees at one place. I don't know all the, logistics, because you're going to have a company that has, you could have one company that has 80,000 employees, but only 500 of them work at one central location. And you could have the same company have 20 work at another location. So I don't know all the breakdown of it, but I spend a lot of time on YouTube trying to find stories about the Department of Labor and OSHA and how they're going to handle this. And I want to find out senators and congressmen and how they react to it. And because I'm spending so much time, I'm getting burnt out. I'm getting very tired. And it's just, I kind of want, it's like fast food. It's like, I want information now. I want information now. I want to know what's going to happen. Give me the news now. And I don't want fake news. I want real stuff. And I'm just tired. And all I can say is that I guess this new thing that Biden said, I don't know if it's going to be able to be law. The Supreme Court will probably have to get involved into that. But I bet you a good 5 to 10 million adults might just get a vaccine. We have 3 to choose from. So if you are one of the many people that are against the RNA technology and you don't understand it, or you're leery of it, or you think there's a chip and you think you're going to be tracked and you think it's the mark of the beast because you're an evangelical Christian, whatever reason you give to the RNA technology, it does not matter the reason. We have another option, and that's why I took the viral vector Johnson & Johnson one shot, because it uses DNA technology just like AstraZeneca. The only difference is AstraZeneca is 2 shots instead of 1. So if you are against the RNA technology, you have no excuse, because there is a DNA viral vector vaccine available. Now, I'm gonna believe, this is just my belief, there's probably 5 to 10 million women that are leery of taking the Johnson & Johnson, especially if you're under the age of 50 and on birth control. I'm not a doctor, but I am going to wonder about those 6 or 10 women that had very rare side effects with the, not hemoglobin, platelets, low platelets, less than 150. Mine is 151. Is it 151 million? 151 billion? 151,000? I don't know what it is, but mine's 151. And it just so happens I was tested, and I think I got a blood test in February, and then I got another blood test in April. And I didn't ask for my platelets to be tested, but they tested them. My doctor tested them. They wanted to do just a blood test. And a whole lot of schmear was tested, a whole lot of stuff. And I looked it up, and I thought, oh my gosh, they tested this. And I didn't ask for it to be tested, and it was the exact same month that I got my Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So you do not have an excuse if you are against the RNA technology, and that's why I didn't get it, because I do not know I do not know what happens to the lipid nanoparticle that goes into the arm. Where does it go? Does it go into the heart 9 months later? And it's a lipid nanoparticle. So because it's a nanoparticle, it can go anywhere because it's so small, and it's fat. And I don't know what kind of fat it is. I have no idea. So am I being irrational? Maybe, because I do eat fat, but I don't do a lot of canola oil. Canola oil is not healthy. So I tend to stay away from those vegetable oils and tend to do only coconut oil or avocado oil, walnut oil, organic olive oil. But canola oil, I don't eat that. It's not healthy. So until I know what happens to that lipid nanoparticle, I'm probably not going to want to take the RNA vaccine. And I was down for 9 days. So, I had done other videos on how I was down with the brain fog and the fatigue. The fatigue lasted 9 days. The fatigue was the worst of all. What do you call it? Not bone. What do you call it? Joint pain. The joint pain was bad, but the joint pain only lasted for about 48, 72 hours. And it was every single joint in my body. It was really bad. And yes, I had a very slight fever, but when the fever only lasts 2 or 3 days, it's not bad. What was bad was the brain fog and the sluggishness and the inability to concentrate and the feeling of tired. I was exhausted for 9 long days. And I think any doctor would say that's probably not a normal immune response. Could have been the polysorbate 80. I don't know. I'm very sensitive to everything. So I just would say, don't listen to public health. Listen to your doctor. And if you have a doctor, I hope that you have a established relationship, because I do not have an established relationship. I have a new doctor that I just got in February of 2021. So this new doctor knows nothing about my health other than what I tell her. She knows nothing about my history in health other than what I tell her. I don't even think she knows that I had COVID from a positive antibody test in August of 2020. And I just went out to Ralph's yesterday on the 14th of September, 2021, because Ralph's is still doing $25 antibody tests, serologic testing for COVID. So it's quite funny. When I went down there yesterday, I just thought, well, it's been 5 months since I had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and I figured maybe it's time now to pay another $25 for an antibody test. It only takes 15 to 20 minutes to find out if I have antibodies, so why not? And lo and behold, I asked the pharmacist, could I have antibodies if I took the vaccine? He said yes. He said everybody that I talked to, everybody that got the vaccine, months later, they still have antibodies. And lo and behold, I still have IgG antibodies to COVID because I took the vaccine in April of 2021. Now, I told him, I said, too bad there's no way to prove by science, by picking apart the blood, and you'd probably have to do more than that than pick apart the blood. But if we had the technology to see, this IgG antibody positive is because you got reinfected with COVID like a month or two ago, but this IgG positive antibody is because you had the vaccine. Wouldn't that be awesome to be able to drill down that much, to be able to tell this antibody positive test is because somebody was infected a month ago with COVID and they got over it, and they never tested positive on a PCR because they never had any symptoms. So if you don't have any symptoms, why would you test? Why would you go get a PCR test if you don't have symptoms? That's just silly to me. And then to drill down and to find out these set of people had immunity or antibodies, not immunity, but antibodies because they took a vaccine. And then separate them out and say, yeah, we found out these people over here had an infection a month ago, and we can find out your infection was a month ago, and that's why you have antibodies. And these people over here have antibodies because they got a vaccine. So not one time did I take a PCR test in 2021. I did 3 PCR tests in 2020, and each one was negative. And I find it very interesting. The question that my doctor, not my doctor, but the county facility, their clinics, they always ask, have you ever tested positive on a PCR test? Or no, they don't even say PCR test. They go, have you ever tested positive for COVID? And then I say, have I ever? Or are you just talking about the last 2 weeks? Which one do you really care about? And then the other question is, what do you mean, have I ever tested positive? Do you mean PCR test or positive antibody test? Which one are you talking about? And they go, a PCR test. And I go, okay, have I ever? And I go, do you care if I tested negative or positive like a year ago? And they go, no, just in the last 2 weeks. And I go, well, then ask that. If you really only care if I tested positive in the last 2 weeks, then the question you need to ask is, did you have symptoms of COVID in the last 2 weeks? Yes or no? No, then you don't need to ask, did you get a PCR test? Because why would you get a PCR test if you don't have symptoms? Why would you do? I mean, maybe you might go out and get one if you know somebody that had COVID and they tell you, I have COVID, and like you live with them, then maybe you might go out. But if you haven't been around anyone that's been sneezing and coughing and spitting up phlegm in your face, and you haven't been with them longer than 15, because contact means 15 minutes. So where does the cutoff? Who sets these arbitrary rules that says contact is 15 minutes? So if you've been in contact, if you've been around someone for 12 minutes and you go, oh, 12 minutes, got to go, bye. That's not contact. Who sets these arbitrary rules? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But go talk to your doctor. Hopefully you have a relationship with them and they understand you and they know your risk and they know your health and they know your diet. They know what you eat. They know what you do. They know how active you are. They know if you are basically a couch potato. They know pretty much a lot about your history. And of course, people aren't going to share a lot with their doctor if they don't trust them. And you want to create that trust with your doctor. You want that. You want your doctor to fight for you. You want your doctor to do whatever they can to help you. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in January 1st, 2022, when the president changes his mind and tells everybody, you know what? I think everybody needs to get a booster and everybody needs to get a COVID vaccine every single year. That's going to be interesting because I do not get a flu shot every single year. I have never gotten a flu shot every single year. And that's going to be interesting. And that is going to be really sad for millions of people that want to work but decide to not work because their employer is going to make them get a vaccine every year. And I bet you the day is going to come where Biden is going to say everybody needs to get a COVID vaccine every single year. Every single year. So if you get COVID, you're going to want to get it like I did. And I had it with no symptoms. I never turned up positive on a PCR test, but I turned up positive on an IgG antibody test. So I was quite shocked last August 2020, when I tested positive. I could not believe it. So you think you're not going to get COVID? That's funny. That's really funny. Have a good day.